Hello, everyone. My name is Roxanne Molyneux, and I am Ojibwe. I am the daughter of Tom Molyneux First Nation from Lynn Reservation. English is not my first language, so please bear with me. I am also the Indigenous Outreach Coordinator at GROW. We acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaty and is within the land of protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampa Agreement. We are working closely with our Indigenous community to advocate for just food system and create a community food program that is culturally relevant, diversity, equitable, and inclusive. We started Grow with a plan that when our community members walk in the door, they are able to see a part of themselves and their values reflected back to them. At Grow, this happens with our community members sitting at the table and being a part of it. By doing this, we create a bigger sense of community where all of our values and cultures are respected. We are excited to offer this part for We are excited to offer this part for Indigenous cooking program to support one of our cultures and reflect our community diversity. We hope to strengthen food programs through incorporation of local Indigenous cultures and traditions. The Indigenous culture we are taught from a young age. The meals we are for sharing food is held in a high regard in our culture. When we don't have the means to eat those tradition foods or buy enough food for you to share with your family and friends, it has a real impact on your well-being and your ability to practice your culture. That is why it is so important to create programs where people can access food to prepare a good meal, but also have an opportunity to create meaningful cultural experience and share it with everyone. Food is a great way to break down barriers and make new friends. We acknowledge this existence of community families that have come together today and prepare and share Indigenous food together. Today is an opportunity to honor our past and work together to create and share a with a meal which is a core practice in our Indigenous culture. As we move forward in our Indigenous cooking program, I look forward to being a part of our future cultural cooking program, highlighting and celebrating our community diversity. I feel honored to be a part of GROW because we respect all cultures, celebrate diversity, and value people's heritage. We believe that access to fresh, affordable, and nutritious food that is culturally appropriate and basic human right. I now like to invite Chase to turn on his microphone and share a little about him.
There you go. All right. Thank you, Roxanne. Hi, everyone. I'm Chase Dockstader. So I'm Aboriginal and I'm from Hamilton, Ontario. And I just moved to Niagara Falls recently and got connected in the community with Grow. And I originally learned Aboriginal cooking in Hamilton at the HRAC Center, which is Hamilton Regional Indian Center. And that's where I learned from my elders how to cook Bannock. And I am Mohawk, and I'm also Oneida of the Thams from London. So I have two backgrounds in my family from two two places where I'm native to two places. So yeah. What else was I gonna say? Yeah, I'm also from the Wolf Clan, and I just started learning about my native heritage when I reached high school. I wasn't traditionally taught from a young age. I went and found it on my own as I grew up in the community. And now I'm here in Niagara, and I'm now reconnecting with the community here in Niagara, which was the people like Grow, with Roxanne and everybody, and I'm pretty excited about where we're going. And I'm just going to be here to share with you guys about making some bannock and berries today. What I like to do before I cook too is traditionally, like, you know, when you're gathering your resources for food back in ancient times, when you're in the wild, and you know there's like just plants everywhere, and you just gather your food and stuff, you would give earth blessings. You basically like give thanks for the creator, the God, universe, whatever you want to call the higher power of reality and Mother Nature, and we'd speak with the plants, and we would ask if we could utilize them, and then we'd talk with her, and then we would give thanks, like if you have tobacco or if you have something to offer, or you'd sing, whatever you have, dance, and we would honor life every time we eat food, because it's a blessing to basically breathe air and be grateful to live. And I'm just going to light some sage and like just say some thanks, because like, thank you, Creator, for having this moment. Thank you that I'm still breathing and alive right now. I get a little bit nervous sometimes, but that's okay. Thank you so much for Grow and this opportunity for me to share this wisdom with you guys. And thank you, Creator, for giving us access to food. Because if we didn't have access to food, we wouldn't even be able to like live on Earth. So, and if we didn't have air, we wouldn't be able to breathe. We didn't have Earth, we would have nothing to walk on. So I just realized you have to be grateful for everything in life, because it's everything around you is a part of you, you know? So we're going to get into the bannock. So here we go, traditional stuff about bannock. So originally with bannock, it is said that like there's a couple stories about it, but Scottish people brought over bannock, a version of bannock, which was made from oats, but also traditionally what we would make here in Canada is, well, the Turtle Island. That's what we traditionally call this, Turtle Island, but it was actually said, like, spoken differently in our language. I don't remember how to say it because I'm still learning myself. But bannock was traditionally made with corn flour or bulbs of plants. Like when a plant grows, there's like a root bulb. You can grind that down and you can turn it into a flour, and that's how you traditionally like make bread when you're in the wilderness trying to, you know, survive. And then you would find berries on trees around you, and then you'd mix your berries and your flour together, or you put them on the side of your bannock. And when you cooked it originally, you'd cook it on sand, or you would make a little clay oven and you bake it in the sun, and then you can make a fire underneath it. So it's basically like a clay oven. So traditionally you would do all of that kind of cool stuff in nature. But today we're in the modern world, and there's so many different varieties and options. And this is a basic version of bannock that we're going to be making today based on what we have access to. Okay, yeah, I wrote down the ingredients here, but you guys all have access to the ingredients, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to start making the bannock now. Okay, so you want to have the camera here? Okay.
Yep. It's what's on it.
Okay, we're going to start off with 3 cups of flour. And right here we're using all-purpose flour. But like I said, traditionally you would use whatever you have in your surroundings, and not even just for Native Aboriginal people, but wherever you are in the world, everyone had access to certain plants wherever you are indigenous to on Earth. So I'm also aware that other traditions around the world have also made similar types of breads based on what they have access to. So pretty much everyone in the world is actually indigenous to wherever they were born. So if you are a human and you are alive and you are on Earth,
How many cups?
that's 3 cups.
3 cups of flour.
Yes, everybody has the.
Yep.
Everyone has the ingredients list. We have 3 cups of flour. Okay. Now we have 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. We're gonna grab a teaspoon. So 1 teaspoon, 1/2 of a teaspoon baking powder, which you guys probably got from Grow. And then you'd go 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Split down. About half. So that was 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And then we're gonna do 1 cup, 1 1/3 cup of warm water. Get your water nice and warm. So 1 cup. And then 1/3. And 1/3 cup of that. And now, at this point, yes. Okay, so now you can use a utensil to stir it around if you want, but traditionally you would use your hands. So I'm gonna use my hands. And we're just going to mush it around and stuff. And when I'm making bannock, I like to set positive intentions into my food. So when I'm breathing and making food, I just want to breathe and put like love energy into your food, because that's going to go back into your body. And when you put positive affirmations into things that you're eating, you're putting positivity and love into yourself. Which makes us happy when we eat it, which is exciting because that's the cycle of life. I'm gonna knead the dough. And if you have to, sometimes you might have to add just a little bit more water, not too much, but you just get it till it's the right consistency, which is basically like a ball of dough. Also, for the amount of ingredients that we have on the list, this will make roughly 9 pieces of bannock. Depending on the size you make yours, I'm making mine around 4 inches in circumference.
What should it feel like, Ken?
Right now it should be roughly like a firm piece of dough. It shouldn't be too wet or too dry. You just keep kneading it until it has an even consistency. So once you have a ball of dough that is a nice firm consistency, like so, right here is where I like to clean up my hands and prepare for the next step. So just gonna wash my hands.
You tell them to get their frying pans ready.
That's what I'm doing. So what I learned with cooking is you want to clean up as you go. So I generally just clean up my mess before I get to the next stage. And you want to make sure you dry off your hands.
So Chase, somebody asked a question. They want to
Yep.
know, is it meant to be sticky?
If it's not really, if it's a little bit sticky, they just tell them they could put you put a little bit of flour on it. So add a little bit extra flour if it's too sticky.
Great, thanks.
You want it to be more like if you touch it, it doesn't stick to your fingers.
Similar to pizza dough.
Yeah, it's like almost like pizza dough for sure. Okay, now before we go and make the bannock pieces, we're going to set ourselves up and we're going to add the oil to the pan. So I just want to make sure everyone's ready to go and they're at this step. Yep.
Hold on.
Everybody ready?
Is everybody ready to put? Does everybody have their dough ready?
Yeah, I think it looks good.
Okay. So
Okay.
now we're gonna put the oil on. So if you have a deep fryer, you can use your deep fryer. I'm pretty sure everyone's very familiar with frying. If you're not, you just want to put about like 2 inches of oil into your pan. Well, or about, yeah, 1.5 inches is good. I don't know if you can see that. Maybe you get shine the light on it better. About a half a pan of oil.
It's visible.
Okay. Here, maybe we should move the light.
Deborah, did you have a question? Was it something about the oil? Yeah, I think,
What's the
Chase,
question?
what kind of oil did you use?
So we're using vegetable oil.
Is canola oil.
Canola oil.
If you have access to canola oil, that's fine. Yeah, basically based on traditions, what you would actually use whatever is in your grass. Like if you only have access to a certain something around you, you'd use that.
Canola oil is corn based, so
Yeah, that's
it
perfect.
would be typical. Yeah.
And then we're gonna put our stove up to like medium, or if your stove is 5, whatever. Just over medium is perfect. And now you get that going. And then we're gonna go back over the bannock. So for this part, you want to lay a little bit of flour in your area so it doesn't stick. And we're going to roll the bannock into little balls. So the size of the ball is roughly about 2 inches, size of a palm. You're like, yeah, but roughly the size of like an average size meatball or something. So you want to roll your balls like so.
Why do you like making them smaller?
Hmm?
Why do you make them smaller than other breads?
Oh, well, actually, you can make these like all different sizes and shapes, whatever you like. Right now, when I'm making bannock and berries, I prefer to make them like smaller because this is like a basic snack size portion. So if you if you tour through two of them, it'd be more of a meal. But I like them smaller because it's just my personal preference. But you can make them bigger. But let me mind you, when we do deep fry these, even though they're going to be like thin, they're going to bubble up and be nice and thick and bubbly. So right now we're just preparing the dough balls. So this recipe roughly makes about 9 of them. If you make them slightly smaller, you'll get 10. So I'll give everybody like roughly like a minute to finish rolling their dough.
Okay. Why don't you check on your oil?
And make sure you keep an eye on your oil because that's important because it's a hot pan of oil. You gotta make sure you're safe.
Safety first.
Safety first. Okay. So when we're done making our balls, I like to put a little bit more powder on my hands. So your hands are nice and powdered up and dry. And then this is where we press our hand on the dough balls and make them flat. Like so. You flip it over. You can knead it like this. And it doesn't have to be a perfect circle or anything. You can pretty much just make them just like that. And it's roughly about this thin, like a 1/4 of an inch thin, roughly. So you want to flatten that down. And now that bannock, that's ready for frying. So now we're going to do that with the rest of them. And again, as I'm making these, I'm still in my mind sending positive affirmations into my food.
Because that's what they mean when you put your heart into your food.
Yeah, you're putting your heart and your love, your soul, vibrations into the food and what you're going to eat. It's a very important part of cooking. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So technically, traditionally, like back in the ancient times and stuff with our ancestors, you'd probably be like in the middle of the woods, pretty hungry at this point, sitting here on the grass or the ground, wherever you are, and you'd be probably on a rock or something, and you'd be pushing these down and molding them while you're on a rock next to your little fire in your little clay oven you made or something. And you would have already foraged and picked everything you needed for the process, obviously. And traditionally, if you didn't have access to oil, you wouldn't be cooking it with oil. You would honestly just you'd be putting it onto a little rock on a fire or a clay oven or something. Whatever you have access to. But today we have a kitchen and a house.
That we were grateful.
We're really grateful for. Yes. And while we're making all of these and the oil is cooking up, by the time we're done making them, the oil will most likely should be ready to put them in. There you go.
If the oil is smoking, then it's hot, right?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe even too hot. So if it starts smoking, turn it down a little bit.
All right.
Because everybody's oven is different.
Yes, everybody's oven's different. I know some ovens are a little bit more powerful than other ovens.
Stovetop started.
Stovetop ovens, yeah. For my oven,
Oh,
just above
I'm gonna get one.
medium is what works for me, but other people's ovens might need it to be a little bit lower. Okay. And before I put them in there, I washed my hands and now I'm drying them. And then while I'm handling them, I like to put a little bit of flour on my fingertips. And as you're going along, before you move on to the next task, you like to clean up your mess, to keep the area sanitized and clean. Of course, if this was ancient times right now, traditionally you would just be on a rock, so you'd be like
Wiping it on the floor.
wiping it onto back to the earth. Okay, so by now everybody's oil should be ready for the bannock to be fried. And so before we put the bannock in there, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna put your bannock into the oil, and my pan can hold 4 at a time. Depending on whatever size your pan is, you put as many that fits in there. And you're going to want to leave it in there and kind of check on it until it goes golden on the bottom. And once it goes golden, you want to flip it carefully. So we're going to start off by putting it in. And if it starts sizzling nicely, you know you have the oil at the right temperature. That's 1, 2. You want to drop it in very carefully. 3, 4. And now make sure you have proper utensils to flip them. I'm using these.
Would it be okay to make a double batch?
A double batch?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean by a double batch?
I'm not sure. They asked that.
Like double up on the recipe, do twice as much.
Oh yeah, you can add to the recipe as much as you want. You can make them bigger. You can literally make them like the size of a plate if you really want to.
Yep.
They do puff up really puffy.
As they're about to see.
Yeah, so you'll see how it puffs up. But yeah, you can customize the recipe to your own preferences.
What is this utensil?
I'm basically using a fork in this because that's what I have access to, because whatever you have access to is what you got to use.
Okay.
So as long as you're using metal into the frying, you want to check them and see how they're going golden. You want to check them roughly every 30 seconds. So those are frying, and you'll notice they're going to start puffing up.
The first ones are out of our oil already. They're really good. But there's no berries with them.
No, the berry part comes after. I want to make sure that yeah. See how it's puffing up? And it's almost golden.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just gonna wait for them to puff up and golden.
Oh, because some people would want you to put the berries directly in.
Yeah, that's another thing is if you want to add your berries into your dough, that is an option. If you want to do that, that is doable. So whoever wants to put the berries directly into their dough, you can do that. I just prefer a different way. And one side is almost done.
I sure told them. The first I was wrong.
It says it in the recipe, like it's all optional.
Oh, okay.
So those are almost ready. So see how they're nice and golden? That's when it's time to flip it to the other side. Nice and gently and slowly. Then they should look golden and fluffy. Usually they like double or triple in size. The width starts here, then goes up.
All them in Bannock bread can be useful.
Yeah, so you can use, like today we're going to do Bannock and berries because traditionally our ancestors would actually, okay, we're moving around, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so traditionally our ancestors would use berries with the Bannock because they would have access to berries in the wilderness and like wild berries and stuff. And they would eat that because the berries had the nutrients they needed. And then they would mix that with the carbohydrates they had with their bread. So they would eat them together. And then what else they would do too is you'd have whatever you have access to, you would eat it with it. And you can turn it into sandwiches. You can make, there's native tacos. You can put lettuce in it. You can put pretty much anything in it. You can put lentils into it. You can dip it into your stews and soups. Basically anything you can think of with bread, you can do with it. And traditionally they would do whatever called to them in that moment of whatever their bodies needed. So the other side should be just about golden now. And when the other side is golden and everything is good, it looks like it's pretty much good. Almost done.
I got a
Sometime-
question.
Question?
Yeah, this is Kevin. My question to you is, if I wanted to make a native taco, okay, how can I make the bannock so that it's not as fluffy as the one you're making right now?
Okay, if you wanted to make the bannock for the tacos usually are slightly fluffy. So what you want to do is you'd want to have you want to make your flour a little bit thinner. So you would basically your ratio with your water and your flour be slightly different. And then you want to press down. You want to make these thinner. So you could use like a rolling pin or something, or just keep pressing with your hand and knead it out like pizza dough and make it really thin.
Okay.
I'll make one too right now too, just to show you. And we'll make it nice and thin like this. So the thinner it goes, the less puffy it will be. So you just go a little bit thinner compared to what we have it at.
Okay.
And I'll put that in for you so you can see that being done after I take these out.
Awesome. Thanks.
You're welcome. Okay, so these are nice and done. I like to give them like a nice little flip over one more time to get an extra cook on the first side we cook to warm it up. And then I take them out. So when you take them out, you can put them on a plate or whatever, or you can put a napkin down to soak up the oil. I'd suggest that because it's pretty oily. Show them this part now. So now we're gonna let it drain a little bit.
Mine aren't as fluffy or as golden as yours.
That's okay, it takes practice.
Okay, maybe the next ones.
Mm-hmm.
How did yours turn out? What ended up happening to them?
Well, they look a little concave and they just didn't brown. I think my oil wasn't hot enough.
That's probably exactly what happened. Yes, if the oil is not hot enough, it
Tell
won't
them the
puff
trick
up.
you do with the water.
Oh no, dude, I don't suggest people do that.
Oh, okay, because you're professional.
No, the way I check oil sometimes is like you get a little bit of water in your hands and you just flick a little bit in there to see if it bubbles. But that can also be dangerous. That's why I don't suggest it to anybody. Yeah, so show them the bannock. So that's the bannock that's the bannock finished. And now for we're gonna show you the flat. You guys can do this with me if you like too, so you can test out different versions of it. If you knead it down and make it thinner, you can make it larger and less fluffy. So this is more what you would do for a native taco, in which we are going to be teaching in a future class at, I think it's closer to the end of the month, that one is. Tacos, that's the last one, the last class of the month on Monday.
Yeah, week 4 is the
Week 4,
tacos.
yeah, there you go. So this is what I had them at, 4 inches, and now I made it flatter for the question of the how do you make it different for native tacos. And you can put that in.
That'll cook faster, won't it?
Yeah, this will also cook faster than the other ones because it's thinner. And it's still going to bubble up, it's going to float. And it'll still be slightly thick. Oh yeah, so now that your oil is all heated up and you already cooked some, the second round, everything's gonna cook much, much faster. So right now it'd be a good idea to turn your oil down just a little notch. I was at a medium and we're going down to a 4. So now we're gonna flip that over.
Oh, looks like a pancake.
Yeah, it basically is like a pancake. You could also use Bannock as pancakes, like a native pancake. Just put some syrup on it. You can put jam on it, whatever you like, peanut butter, whatever your taste buds desire. You can do anything with it. That's what I love about it. It's so universal.
Neighbor.
So we made some interesting shapes here with the kids.
Awesome.
What did you make, David? Snake?
I made a snake.
You made a snake?
That's awesome.
That's wonderful. Getting creative.
Here, show them. So the difference that I made with here.
Okay.
So this is how I would make a native taco.
Show them on the side. How long will they keep? How long will they stay fresh for?
Stay fresh.
Like keep.
I don't know. I always eat them
3
so
days.
quick. I guess a few days. Yeah, you can keep these for a few days. I usually eat mine all in one day because they're so good. But that's what the native taco version of it would look like
Versus
versus that.
this. There.
It still kind of looks thick, but that's actually just air bubbles. So when you press down on it, you can press down on it if you want, and it makes it flat. And then you can put your taco stuff into it.
Thanks.
You're welcome. And you can also treat it like a pita. So you can actually, let me get a knife. You can actually cut it like a pita, and then you can stuff them.
Which is what you're gonna do with the berries.
Yeah. So like that, you can stuff it with taco. You can put everything on top, or you can stuff it. And you can also make like you can make literally native shawarmas even. You can stuff shawarma stuff in there, falafel. You can use it for anything.
And I'll put the berries in.
Yeah, here. So before I start cooking the rest of them, I'm gonna show you guys what I do with the berries. So bring it over here. So you can do that. You can cut it down the middle, or you can cut it in half. I like to cut it in half, like so. You can just eat the berries on the side. You can dip it in jam. Like I said, it's always universal. I like to open it like this because you get a pocket in there. And then I have blueberries here today. And then I just put the blueberries in there just like so.
Fresh berries.
Some fresh berries, any berries that you have that you like, just put them in there. And then
you eat it.
well, you eat it, or you can, if you like salt and pepper like I do, I like to put a little bit of salt onto it.
Yeah, because you're weird. Why would you put pepper on berries?
It tastes good, because that's my taste buds. And then, yeah, and then you can just eat it with the berries. It's got like a really unique flavor to it.
We only have 10 minutes left, so you don't have to cook the rest of them
Okay.
on browns. Just
Well, here, we're gonna show some other things. There's some other things you can do too. So I put berries in this one. You can stuff it with anything. I have some avocado here. If you like avocado, you take some avocado and just put it in there for a nice morning snack. Yeah, it's literally endless. You can do anything. And here's some microgreens that we got from Grow, which is very healthy, nutritious. There's lots of good stuff in there. You can take some plants and you can literally just put vegetables in there. Really good for the children to get them to eat their greens and stuff. And I personally really love this too. It's really tasty.
It's like a pea sprout sandwich.
Yeah, so traditionally this is what you would do. If you have access to berries, if you have greens around you, if you have plants, flowers, whatever your body needs for nourishment in that moment, you would just basically eat with your bannock. Another thing you can do is you can basically eat it the way it is. You can dip it in your soup. And like I said, you can cut down the middle like so. And then you open up, you can stuff it like that instead of cutting it in half. So you can throw some berries in there, some greens, some avocado, whatever you have, whatever you like. You can stuff it like that. And then the native taco, we're going to save that for the fourth class at the end of the month. And that is how you make bannock and berries with basic ingredients that you have access to. And then traditionally, you would make it with whatever, basically still same thing, whatever you have access to. And one of the coolest things was they used to have if you had something you make flour out of, basically like a plant or a flower when it had the
Hibiscus.
bulbs, like I said earlier, you make that into powder, and that's how you'd make it.
You can make it out of hibiscus.
Hibiscus, yeah, hibiscus plants.
Ask people if they have any questions.
Does anybody have any questions?
Yep, one. One in the chat for you. What do you do with the oil after it is finished?
So for the oil, anytime you cook with oil, you want to get yourself like a bottle or a catch can, or like you can have like an extra bottle. Like that's something I've done.
Show them your bottle that you made.
You don't have the top cut off, but you can basically just pour the oil after it's cooled down. Make sure the oil is cooled down before you obviously dispose
All
of
the
it.
way.
But you can put it in a catch can like this and dispose of it, or you can reuse it. I like to reuse oil, so I just put it inside of a plastic container, which basically is good because I'm recycling the environment and stuff.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can you repeat the recipe again one more time?
Yep.
Recipe?
I can send that recipe to you, Kevin.
Okay,
Can I
thanks.
send it to you again?
There you
Okay.
go.
And Wynn,
Thanks.
did you have a question?
No, my question was answered about what to do with the oil when you're done.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Well, mine still look like hockey pucks. They didn't seem to rise. The second ones I raised the heat, so they're browner, but they didn't get puffy.
Was that?
Did you
with
make sure there
canola
was,
oil?
did you make sure there was baking powder in it?
Yes?
You're the one who cooked it with the canola oil?
No, I actually had peanut oil was the only oil I had on hand.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with different oils, it is possible you're gonna get different results.
Okay.
But there's still gonna, did you taste it? Like, how does it taste?
Well, I ate one of the hockey puck ones. It was a little flat. I haven't tried the fluffier ones yet.
Okay. Yeah, that is one thing about different oils, although it is all possible to use whatever you have access to. Not all oils will give you the exact same results.
Chase, somebody asked if you could use like less oil, like maybe perhaps like a more of a pan frying than a deep frying.
Yes, you can do that. You can put a little layer of oil on the pan and then just flip it.
Okay.
You can put these in you can put the dough in the oven and bake it if you like as well. It's all very universal.
That's great. And somebody else suggested that maybe Nancy, your baking powder is old. Baking powder or baking soda? I forget
Oh,
which you
maybe.
used.
Okay,
It's possible too.
that's possible.
Okay. We're learning
But
things.
At least this batch round up a bit.
How many more can you eat right now?
Like,
Those are mine. These. You
I
can
can
share
eat all of them.
I'll look at all of them.
You want to do a closing ceremony?
A closing ceremony, yes.